Okay, great. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to our part two in our Caribbean photo walk judging. We had an awesome night last night. It lasted some 4 hours. Hopefully, we won't go as late this evening. Barbados set the bar pretty high yesterday with some amazing images. There was great participation from a lot of their photographers. And this evening, we have Trinidad and we also have Jamaica. So it promises to be a very good evening. We have our judges returning from yesterday. We have Nisha, we have Gary, we have Hugh. And the feedback that I got, everyone enjoyed the judging last night. And I'm sure that this evening is going to be no different. To start our meeting, we will start with a word of prayer. I see Bruce was down to pray again, but I'm not sure he's online. So as not to call on anybody suddenly. Oh, Bruce is about to enter the room. Look at that. Let's just make sure that his audio is on. Bruce, I hear that you're praying again. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, well, we're ready for you. Bruce, can you usher a word of prayer, please?
Yes, let's bow our heads. Father God, we thank you for sparing our lives that we can meet again as a body, lovers of photography. We were blessed yesterday in the review and we learned a lot. And Lord, we are comfortable that we'll even gain further knowledge and this evening. Dear Lord, between the lights and shadows and the ups and downs and the rolling years, keep us from getting out of focus or off center, so that our life and our work may be framed with dignity and colored with contentment. God, grant us the serenity to accept the scenes we cannot change, courage to change the scenes we can, and wisdom to know the difference. Please bless this proceedings this evening. All this we ask in your good name. Amen.
Thank you very much, Bruce. And I'll hand over to Belinda, who is going to do our welcome, and then we'll get into proceedings. Belinda, over to you. Belinda, are you there?
Belinda, you're muted, Doctor.
Yes, I just realized that. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties. All right. It's just a quick, brief thank you because I'd gone through the welcome yesterday already. So we're just continuing on from yesterday. And I want to be as brief as possible because we ran really late yesterday. So I don't want to take up any more time than is necessary. Especially for Gary, who is in the UK and he went to bed early this morning because of us. So thank you for your patience, Gary. And everybody else who has attended today's meeting and yesterday's meeting, I appreciate it. And everybody who's participated and organized. Thank you very much. We're going strong and hopefully we'll be even better for 2025.
Thank you very much, Belinda. Now, we're going to ask Trinidad to go first and to give us an update or an overview as to how their photo walk went. I'm going to ask Sarita Ramprasad to unmute and tell us a bit about your photo walk in Trinidad.
All right, so our attendance actually wasn't that great this year for whatever reason, but we went to the Chaguanas market, which we chose because it's such a diverse, busy, you have diverse subject matters. You could make portraits, you could shoot food, products, you could do a little more street photography, if that is what you like. and it's very busy and bustly. And it was actually a really great place to shoot. We had about, I think, 13 or 14 people that registered, but only about 7 or 8 came, I think, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I mean, the people who did come seemed to enjoy it a lot. The submissions don't reflect the number of people that came, but it is what it is. But yeah, so that's what we did. And Nisha actually came with us on this photo walk, so we had a judge on site.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarita. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to play a slideshow of the images. So you get an idea as to all the images, 12 images submitted by Trinidad. And then I'm going to hand over to our judges. Again, tonight we have Nisha from Trinidad. We have Gary hailing from the UK. And we have Hugh hailing from Barbados. And usually what we do is that we'll ask the judges from not from that participating country to go first. So Gary is kind of representing Jamaica. So I'll ask Gary to go first, followed by Hugh, and then I'll ask Nisha to give concluding comments when it comes time for Trinidad. So give me a moment. Let me bring up this slideshow. Hopefully we won't have the technical challenges we had yesterday. And okay, are you seeing my screen?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, this slideshow can play automatically. Those were the images from Trinidad and Tobago. And now I'm going to hand over to our judges who need no introduction. Gary Langley from the UK/Jamaica. Nisha, hailing from Trinidad. And Walker hailing from Barbados. So let me bring up the images again and we'll go one by one. And we'll first hand over to Gary. Good evening, judges.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Try that again. Guys, we're at the end and we need to get to the beginning. She's here. Okay. Okay, so our first photographer from Trinidad is Cameron.
Thanks. Good night, everybody. It's nice to be back here again for this judging. Is this the first picture, or is there?
I'm sorry, give me a moment. Let me just close this one so that there's no confusion here. Gary, just give some general feedback until I get this teed up. It's coming up now.
Okay, well, maybe I'll start by telling you, for those people who don't know, I'm known by the Jamaica photographers, but the Trinidad, Tobago, and Barbados photographers I'm not. So my name's Gary Langley. I belong to a camera club in a city in Nottingham, famous for Robin Hood. The camera club's called Long Eaton Camera Club. I'm new to that club. I've only been in that club since this year. Sorry, since September. Our season starts in September and finishes in May. So I've been in the camera club since September. I photograph just about anything that will stay still long enough for me to get the image sharp. So I do wildlife, landscape, portraits, environmental portraits. I photograph architecture, just about anything I can turn my hand to. I'm a senior judge for the North and East Midlands Photographic Federation, which is affiliated to the Photographic Alliance of Great Britain, and I'm an accredited judge for the Photographic Alliance of Great Britain. I've been into photography since a teenager. I had a dark room, which I got a lot of encouragement from my brother to do, who's now no longer does photography. I'm like the only one left to do photography. Is that me waffled enough now?
I think that's great. Okay, this is Cameron's first image.
Cameron, environmental portraiture. I do like it. I love the activity in the background. I think that's fitting. I like the concentration and stare of the gentleman, the fishmonger in front of us. But I believe that the lighting could be switched around a little bit. So what I would do is darken down the fish in the front and lighten up the gentleman's faces. The gentleman definitely in the foreground. If you can do a subject select, if you use Photoshop, and then adjust that, bring out some details in the shadows and lift all those shadows would really help it. I'm not too concerned about the darkness in the background. The darkness in the background doesn't bother me at all. But currently, my eyes are drawn to the white shirt in the background and the other things going off and the fish in the front. If you were to lift the main character, the star of the show, I think it would add more emphasis on him and it would be a much more engaging portrait. Again, the other thing that you should be aware of is if you look round the edges of the picture and take out things that are slightly distracting. If you look on the left-hand side by the gentleman's shoulder, there looks like a tap or a pipe or something, both coming out the left-hand side and out the top. I would calm those down because they're a little bit obstructing, and one of them's really bright. So I calm that down. If you can look through and look at any bright spots and try to balance those colours out, balance the light out, not the colours, obviously. That's me. Thank you.
Harry, Hugh?
Yeah. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Good night. So good night, everyone. Glad to be here again. We had a wonderful time last night. I'm looking forward to another wonderful and engaging night tonight. Cameron, I have to agree with everything that Gary said before. It's a nice environmental portrait. It's just that you need to take into consideration that the hero of your shot needs to be front and center and needs to be the most prominent part of the image. So your store manager or store guy here, he needs to be a bit brighter in the image. You've got, as Gary indicated, on the right hand, on his left shoulder to our right, a gentleman with a prominent white shirt, which is drawing your eye away from your hero. So you need to take care of those little things. And as Gary indicated, a little bit of reducing the light or the prominence of the fish in the foreground, and that will definitely improve this image. Good, good, good attempt. Just a few little things to do to make it really sparkle and shine. Nisha, you.
Thank you, guys. Sorry my camera isn't on. I have my sinuses acting up, and keeping the airways clear is not exactly attractive. So, nothing much to add to my colleagues. I think it's I just wanted to just to say that it's good storytelling. I think the scene looks very authentic, and the background adds some depth and a sense of place to it. So definitely everything that went before, and brightening the vendor's face or facial expression, especially because you want that emotional connection. So that's it from me. Thanks, guys.
Well, this one is bright.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
Go ahead, Gary.
market goer. This one is bright. And for me, I think that the background of the image needs to be toned down by a couple of stops, and then build it up and dodge and burn and get the brightness where you need it. I don't mind the rim lighting. The rim lighting could be really effective if it's not overdone. So have a work at that and do it. Because of the exposure, you see the guy on the right-hand side whose arm's cut off. You're not seeing much detail in his trousers or his shirt or anybody down that side to the fact. And then, you're losing a lot of detail because of that. You have some lens flare on the back of the main character with the bag on the back of his head, which I think you could easily deal with and get rid of. Because it's so bright, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 objects suspended in the sky, and I'm sure they're attached to either power cables or lamps or whatever they are. That needs to be sorted out. So overall brightness needs to be checked. The other thing, when you're taking the image as well, I would consider a crop, and I'd consider cropping off the guy on the left-hand side with the stripy shirt and the guy I mentioned with no detail. Just going and cropping those off would clean up the picture, so that we've got, we haven't got half a body on one side and half a body on the other side. Unfortunately, when we do that, and we all do it, it looks like a mistake rather than a deliberate act of cropping out somebody. So I'd be tempted to crop those people out. It's a pity that the main character has got his back to us. If he was facing us, like the guy in the multicolored, multi-patterned clothes looking at him, I think the main character would be drawn more into the picture, more into the scene, and get a much more of an emotional contact with the image if the guy was looking at us. That's me done. Thank you.
Okay, I think Gary's covered all the technical issues with regard to lighting, etc. Totally agree with what he has suggested. The thing I do like about this image is that you can feel the motion, you can feel the action, you can feel the story in here. There is a story. It's being told by all of the movement, the interaction with the guy with the multicolored pants, looking at the our main character in the center of the image, probably trying to make a sale with him, negotiate something with him. So you can feel the story, you can feel the movement of a marketplace, maybe a Saturday morning or whatever. So in terms of creating a story, it's well done. Again, as Gary indicated or suggested, removing the gentleman on the left and the gentleman on the right will tighten that story a bit. You could keep the gentleman on the right if you wanted to, because his motion adds to the motion of the motion of the image. His moving away adds a bit more of action to the image. So he's possible that you could keep him if you want to. So you can try a couple of crops that way to see which one you like.
All right. I agree, of course, with a lot of especially the part on the exposure. I like the backlit effect. I think it enhances the contrast and gives you a nice layered effect. But I definitely agree that your overall exposure is uneven. The background is a little too overexposed, and we lose details in the shadows, like Gary said. Story-wise, two things. The actual subject, the market goer, like Gary said, his back is turned to you. So to me, the guy in the center left looking at the camera feels more like the subject to me. I think agree on the cropping, and for me, the storytelling would be a bit strong if there was emphasis on like a single subject or interaction. Because here, I think the focus is spread across multiple competing elements. So maybe isolate the vendor or specific interaction to make that narrative a little stronger. That's it from me.
Yeah, I really like this image. I think you've done really well to capture that look and the feeling of the man. You're capturing a little bit of his character, and I think that's all good as far as I'm concerned. My chief concern is the really messy background, and I don't know whether you could have done something in post to darken that background down. And by darkening the background down and maybe blurring it slightly, you'd help the gentleman to stand out. I like the fact that you've got eye contact with the gentleman. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more light in the gentleman's eyes. His eyes look very dark to me. And if you're taking a portrait like this, there's no harm in saying to the gentleman, can you move to the left or move to the right and get a better angle, and maybe move those golden shoes, sandals on the left-hand side out of the picture so that you can actually get a clear and uncluttered picture. I'm sure he wouldn't mind. Most people are obliging. When I do my portraiture, I don't know whether this was a candid shot, a grab shot, or what you did. But if the first thing you do is get a grab shot, then go and speak to him, engage with the person that you're photographing, and say, "Can I move these out the way? Can you stand up, sit down, or move to the side so I can get a better picture?" Maybe show him a few pictures that you've taken before to show him what you're up to. I would clone out. There's a little red triangle next to his arm. I'd clone that out because that looks. I was trying to figure whether it was a bit of material hanging off his clothes, and it's distracting. I'd get rid of all the little bits around the image which are distracting. On the top right-hand corner, you've got a red, black, and white stripe, or just a red and black, the red and white stripe. I'd get rid of those. But if you darken all the background down, I think that would help the gentleman to stand out. I love the detail and texture in his face, and I think the detail and texture in his beard is awesome. So well done for that. Yeah, that's me done. Thank you.
I really enjoy the engagement that you have with the subject, looking directly at you with a semi-smile, sort of, semi-smile there, enjoying his book. I totally agree with what Gary is suggesting in terms of the changes, the technical changes that he has suggested. Those will definitely improve the overall look of the image. I'm aware that when you are doing street photography, it's it can be hectic. It can be a bit intimidating at times to go up to someone who you don't know and engage with them and try to get an image from them. Best way, as Gary indicated, is to take one or two images, go up to them, show them the camera, show them the images that you're taking, tell them a bit about yourself, what you're doing, and even get their email address or something and tell them to send them a couple of them for their own use. That always helps to build some sort of rapport between you and the person that you're trying to get that image from. But overall, I love the engagement. I know he has his glasses tucked into his shirt, and I was wondering how we could have used, or we could have asked him to use those glasses in some way as an additional prop to add even more, interest to the shot. But that's something you could work on, and maybe even if you have a chance to go back and talk to him, can try another session with him. But it's a lovely image. He has very detailed features, weathered look. I love it. Well done.
I'll share a little bit of background since I was there. This gentleman, Robert, he was very interested. He was engaging. I think almost everybody took a picture of him because he was so willing. I think I was there on camera and asked him to take a picture, and the subject suggested he take out his Bible and sit with it. So he was very accommodating. So Gary covered most of my salient points in terms of the texture, the background, and all that. So Cameron just wanted to say a nice documentary style approach to your photo. It's a strong portrait.
Sorry, can I just come in? Sorry, can I just come in there? Cameron, if you'd have called the image the shoe seller, then I think that would have, there would be a reason for having the shoes in the background and the foreground. Just another thought.
Thank you, judges. Our next photographer is Kathy Bain. And this is her first image.
Hi, Kathy. Similar to what I was saying about the fishmonger earlier on, the lights all falling down on the fruit in the front, and I would like to see a little bit more light. Don't go mad with the light on the two ladies in the background, because I think that's what you're asking us to look at, unless it is your intention for us to look at the fruit, and then it's not as interesting, in my opinion, as the ladies would be in the background. Again, similar to what I've said, there's not many highlights here, but there's one between her neck and the guy in the white shirt, black and white shirt, striped shirt. I'd darken those down, and I'd get rid of the lines going through his head and from her mouth to his shoulder. I'll get rid of those, but you just need to lift the lighting at the top of the image. Keep the lighting at the bottom of the image because that's superb. Yeah, that's me.
If the intention was, Kathy, if the intention was to capture the bustling interaction of the ladies searching for groceries in the early morning, then what I would have suggested basically is you try to shift maybe a bit more to the right, because that white, all right sign is going to be a distraction however you do this, with this particular image as it's taken. So it may be a situation where you could change your perspective a little bit, or zoomed in a bit more, if you could possibly zoom in, or maybe just the two ladies, and try to exclude as much of the sign as possible. maybe a shift to the right a bit, lower your perspective, to shoot up, somehow or some way to try to minimize the effect of the sign in your composition and in your story. I think there is a story here to be told. I can see the interaction. There's one lady who is um, the first lady with the gray blouse who is really engaged with whoever is selling or whatever she's looking at. And the other lady is not coming into the picture to see what she can get. She has an interest in something there. And she's trying to figure out how to get it wrong to get it. So there's a story, but we need to help the story by trying to remove as many of, or trying to minimize as many of the elements that can distract the viewer as possible. And that may have required you shifting a bit to the right or maybe even to the left and trying to minimize the sign. When you're in these situations, you still have to be cognizant of everything in the frame. I know you're trying to capture something happening that's happening very quickly, but you still have to be cognizant of everything in the frame. And if it's not working, don't force it. If it's not working, reposition and try again. If it's not working, wait for another couple of people to come, reposition yourself and wait for another group of people to come along and try to get to maybe a similar type of interaction or whatever. Patience sometimes is best in these situations. That's it for me.
All right, so this might be the first image I think I will disagree with my previous with the former judges. I actually really like this as is. I mean, in the sense there are some shadows that need to be lifted and then some brightness that need to be dropped, but I don't hate the composition. I feel like it's like a vibrant market scene. You have people engaging in the background. I like the interplay of the light and shadow. I find it's striking and it draws your attention to the woman, creating a kind of visual impact. The sign itself doesn't bother me. I think it adds a kind of authentic documentary style. It has a kind of cultural depth, context, a little humor, and I feel like it adds a narrative layer. So I would not have changed much. Background, the little distraction back that Gary mentioned with the light leading through the guy's head and from her mouth, definitely would remove those and maybe try to balance the exposure a bit more. But I don't hate the story.
Nisha, for my own education, what kind of fruit is it?
Breadfruit.
Breadfruit. Oh, yeah. I think they also call it bread nuts.
Okay, because our breadfruit doesn't have that spiky stuff on it.
Oh, this is not breadfruit. This is Shatine's, sir.
Oh, hard luck,
Jackfruit.
Yeah, no, it's not jackfruit.
This is not jackfruit.
That's what it looks like.
What is it, Nisha?
They call it Shatine, but that's the Hindi name for it. It's called chestnut is the English name for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen that in Jamaica. Maybe some of my Jamaican colleagues can correct me if we have that one here. Okay, thank you, Nisha.
No problem. Chestnut or bread nut.
Another vibrant scene. I like the way you've filled the bottom part of the image with the fruit, and that the fruit's not as critically sharp as the lady's face. I think she could do with tweaking and making it a little bit sharper, in my opinion. I think that would help her to stand out. The graffiti on the back of the wall, I don't think it adds to the story. I don't know if you could have, well, there'd be a lot of work removing the graffiti, but maybe darkening that wall down. I don't know whether this was a grab shot or whether you'd spoken to the lady. If you'd spoken to the lady, then again, I would have gotten her to look at the camera and kind of engage with her that way. She's got a pretty smile. She's got nice colours on her dress. And I think that was doing. I just think that the graffiti for me is a little bit awkward and a little bit off-putting because I tend to feel myself drawn to the graffiti and what's going off in the background. And the graffiti, to me, seems to be sharper than the lady's face. So that's me done.
Gonna enlarge it on my screen. She is kind of sharp. It's not too bad. Uh, I love the colors. I love the arrangement of the fruit in front of her. She seems to be sort of immersed in the fruit or popping out of the fruit. Uh, from an environmental perspective, she's quite engaging. Only thing I would really work on would be just maybe Gary indicated, making sure that she's very sharp in the frame. If you have to do a little sharpening on her just to emphasize her a little bit more. And maybe crop a little bit off the top, coming down to where there's a 6I alpha. Well, just above that 6, just to remove a bit of that because it's not necessary. The graffiti is going to be a lot of work to get rid of. So it may not be worth it to get rid of it that way. But it's there, it's part of the environment. Yeah, it's just there. So I think it's a very engaging image. As Gary indicated, if she was looking directly at the camera, it would be interesting. It would be, more engaging because she would be directly looking and engaging with the actual cameraman itself. But her look or gaze to the side of that smile is still kind of nice. I find it quite nice. That's it.
Yeah, I think we definitely have a nice connection through her smile and add some depth to the image. And 100% agree that the graffiti seems to be competing a little bit for the attention of focus. So it's a nice mood and story. Nothing much else to add. Thanks.
Now, this picture for me is much more engaging. He's not looking directly at the picture, he's looking beyond the picture. But that's not a problem. I kind of like that. Again, similar to what I was saying about the gentleman in an earlier image, you've got some really good detail in his face. And I love the way that the light's caressing his face as well. There's a slight bright spots. There's a couple of bright spots above his eye and below his eye. I may have toned those down. And the one that's at the top of his hat, I would definitely get rid of those. Again, with the background, most of that background is out of focus. The little bit that's distracting is a bit above his shoulder, his right shoulder as we're looking at him. That bit up there I would try to get rid of. But I like the engagement with this photo, even though he's not looking straight down the barrel of the lens. I do like it. I like the crop, the color in the picture looks authentic. It looks good. I'm not telling you to increase the saturation or decrease it. I think that kind of works well. If the background is already muted on the part which is blue, but if you could do that a little bit more, that would again help the sitter to stand out. So I think it's a really good portrait. Well done.
I think Gary's covered everything I would like to say about this, and I would just like to indicate that I would just like to say, sir, that I really love this. I love the engagement I'm seeing here with this particular subject. I think the cameraman, the person who's taking the image has done a very nice job in getting over a bit of his character to the viewer, some of his character to the viewer. I really love it as an environmental portrait. I really love the way it's done. I would agree with Gary about just a few little things, like above the hat as he indicated, that white spot, and probably just suggested desaturating the background where the yellow and green is, or darken it a little bit if you want to, but it's not significant in any way taken away from the strength of the image, which is really strong, really nice. Well done.
Yes, definitely have to say the expression is engaging. It feels relaxed, personal, and authentic. Nice connection. Nice rich textures in the wrinkles, the beard, so it adds a bit of more depth. The thing that bothers me most is that arm ending at the bottom edge of the frame. I think it feels a bit abrupt. I think maybe a more deliberate crop or if there's more of the picture, maybe including more of the arm to kind of improve the balance. I know you all mentioned the highlights above the hat. I would also darken that patch on the hat because it doesn't add to the narrative. It's a big white spot that's just right above his head there. And I very much love the catchlight in his eyes. That just always makes a portrait come so much alive. So good job.
Our next photographer is Naila Mohammed. And this is her first image, coconut craftsmanship.
I love the detail that you've managed to capture in these coconuts. I would definitely take a photograph if I was walking by. We don't see this sort of thing in the UK. In fact, we're lucky to see a coconut, to be fair. We used to see them quite a bit. We don't see many now. Similar sort of things that we were saying about other images. The background needs to be darkened down. The exposure needs to drop dramatically on the background. And maybe speak to the vendor and see if you can actually move the white signs out of the way. I think that would help. It would help bring the pictures out. And I like the contrast between the brown, rough skin of the coconut and the fruit and vegetables that's there packaged beside it. I think that kind of works well. But especially that top right-hand corner is very, very bright, and it does tend to pull my eye away from the main subject matter, which is the craftsmanship on these coconuts here. So yeah, well done. Just a few tweaks, I think, would make it better. Thank you.
Ditto. Gary's covered all of it for me. Just background as usual. Bright, the top right hand is very bright, so it draws your eye. The vegetables on the right hand side, maybe darken those a little bit so that they stand out a bit more prominent to add contrast against the composition. I love the sharpness of the image. I love the detail. I love the quirkiness of the coconut. That's been sculptured with the nose, etc. It's just fun. I think it's a very nice capture. You're walking by, you see this very interesting scene, something that you don't see every day. You try to get it, you try to make sure that you can capture it as best you can given the circumstances. And just when you get home, just do a few little things just to tidy it up, but it's very nice.
You guys covered it. There's nothing more to add. It's really a unique subject matter. It really stands out and draws the attention. So, good job, Naila.
This is a more engaging portrait for me. It puts me in the position of I'm the person who's actually trying to buy the pineapple, so I'm kind of engaged in that way. The background again is very, very bright. You tone it down. I would definitely try to get rid of the strip lights that's all going on around her, and I think if you did that, that will make a much more engaging portrait. Everything around her seems to be soft, which I don't have a problem with. I think it's a good idea, but she is nice and sharp in the image. You've got that engagement with her. She's looking at you. You know, you can see her eyes. She's got the catch light. She's looking at you. You've managed to minimize the glare that would fall on her glasses to a state that it's not bothering me at all. I mean, you could tidy little bits up, but it's not going to bother me. And it, you know, if that was the only issue, then it wouldn't be a real issue. The other thing is that I may try to get rid of those bottles just above her arm. I think they're slightly distracting. And if you have a look on the left-hand side, there's like a yellow line going up. I'd crop in a little bit and get rid of that. So I think when you do that and all that, I think you'll have a much better picture. The sign in the foreground, which is half in and half out. Again, I would darken that down, but it does add to the story because she's got a marker pen in her hand. So I think it kind of adds a little bit to that story. So the engaging smile is attractive. The pineapple is attractive because she's bringing you into the story. You know exactly what she's about. She's about selling you fruit, and I think it all works very well for me. Thank you.
Agreed. She's about selling her fruit. It's a good environmental portrait of her in her environment, her working environment. I agree with Gary on the left-hand side, bringing the crop a little bit to diminish that yellow line. On the right-hand side, also where you've got the tarpaulin, or whatever is turning into I guess it's wood behind there that it's sitting on. We've got that brown piece of wood. I would bring it to remove or eliminate that brown piece of wood also. So bring it in a bit on the right-hand side. Common theme this evening, background. Try to isolate your subject from the background as best as possible can. That is where either an aperture that will allow you to blur out the background, and in addition, when you get home and you're doing a bit of post, to try to clean up the background if you can, and just reduce the exposure or shadows, or increase the shadows in the background so it's just a little bit dimmer. Not anything that is totally obvious or too obvious, but just a little bit dimmer than the main subject that you're focusing on. So it's a common theme this afternoon. We're seeing the background you need to pay attention to that in your work at home when you're working on the image in your post editing. Beyond that, it's a nice, engaging, environmental portrait. Well done. You've caught her at a good time. She's got the marker in her hand. You see that she's writing a sign, big one. She's got a papaya. I think it's a papaya in her hand and a pineapple. See, as Gary says, you know what she's about. She's about making a sale for these things, and she's about to write up a cost or a banner to help her with that. Well done.
Just two little things to add. That piece of fluorescent lights that is directly on top of her head, I would definitely clone that because it kind of makes her head look almost chopped, like right at that spot. And for me, the image feels a little more cool toned, so I think a warmer tone would enhance that inviting feel of the market a little bit more. That's it, my additions. Thanks.
Again, similar things here about the strip lights. I would definitely get rid of the strip lights. They are distracting. It will be easy in this image to get rid of them. I do like how the light falls on looks like corrugated tin on the roof. I do like the shadows and textures in there. I've said all the way through here that what we need to do in order to engage with the sitter is have a bit of eye contact. But you know what? This works. It's always good to break the rules, and you've done it, and I think you've done it with great effect. Your fruit and vegetables, I'm sorry, I don't know what half of them are. Your fruit and vegetables are sharp. They're exposed really well. There's some above her arm which we could do with darkening down slightly, but the majority of them, most of them, are sharp. I like the detail that you've got in here. I'd lift the detail a little bit just to get a little bit more, lift the shadows in her hair just to get a little bit more detail in there. You can find at the back of her head, it's kind of merging in with the background. And I'd like to see some separation between, and I'm sure you've got it, between her hair and the background. But all in all, it's one of the best portraits that we've seen here tonight. Overall, on the parts that are white, darken them down a little bit, and the rest of it looks really, really good, nice and sharp. I think I'm in two minds whether to clone out the pipe in the top right-hand corner, but that's just me being picky now. If you got rid of the strip lights, I think it would be a much better image as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Not much more to add on this one at all. I love the story. I love the way it's framed. I like the way that although she's not engaged directly with the camera, you're still getting a sense of feel of the story and of the image. When I first looked at it, I was wondering about the black and white conversion because her shirt, the no, no, is that chive or what it was in the front? The first set of vegetables, they all sort of are in the same tonal range, and I was looking, how can I separate her? How do I separate her more from the background, given the tonal range that's here? And I would have to say that the only thing I could think of is when you're doing the black and white conversion, is to, if you have an opportunity or you have software that allows you to play a little bit with different color filters to see what they would do with regard to those specific tones in the image. Tones being her shirt, it's going to affect the shirts, and it would affect, hopefully not affect very much the vegetables in the front and her skin tones itself. So you'd have to play with various filters, color filters, red, yellow, green, blue, orange, see what effect they would have on the tonal range of the black and white conversion, and see which one feels better, gives you that better separation of her from the background without damaging or messing with her skin tones and the other key aspects of the image. If none of them are working, then you've got to go back into a little bit of dodge and burn, specifically on her shirt, to just bring it out a bit more. That's it for me.
I like that comment in terms of playing around with the filters and channels in the black and white, because I think the black and white is really nice in this market scene. It adds a kind of timeless quality, and there's an emphasis now on textures, shapes, and contrast instead of color. It also helps take away a lot of distractions in terms of color distractions. So overall, good profile view, strong line leading from the hand to the arm, guiding the viewer's eyes across the frame. I think the posture it's one of purpose, and there's an involvement, even though it's not directly interacting with the photographer. So I like this portrait.
Yeah, the next photographer is Sarita Ramprasad.
What a lovely smile. And the smile's so engaging that you're drawn into her smile is making me smile, which again is drawing me in there. You find that you can think about her character. She's a happy, a jolly sort of person who's got a welcoming smile. The fruit and veg, I don't mind the fact that they go out of focus really quickly. I think that's good. The colours seem all right. There's similar sort of things about the background though that I was saying about other backgrounds. You haven't got two. You've got the one strip light and two round lights to get rid of, and then that strip across the middle to lighten down. So I think that would help your image stand out a lot. I would aim to get a little bit more detail in her bag, only slightly, because I can see detail there, but a little bit more detail would be good. Yeah, that's just about it for me. If you controlled your highlights, it would be a much better image. Thank you.
Hi, it's very well done. Good control of your focal point, your aperture to blow the background. Good choice of lens. If you're using a 85 or 50 or 135, but it's a good choice of lens for this particular image because you're compressing the background. The foreground is slightly out of focus, just in front of our fingers, and then it tapers off very nicely past her in terms of, diminishing that aspect of view. So you're not focusing very much on those aspects because they're blurred very gradually as it goes away. Yeah, as Gary said, just a few little things again in terms of the background, in terms of just making sure that the background does not compete with your main subject. Um, Her smile, as Gary indicated, just makes the whole thing. It's just such a genuine smile, and it's not just on her, it's in her eyes also, which is beautiful. So well done.
Yeah, I think a lot of things work with this picture. Expression, genuine, inviting, immediately connects the viewer. Like Gary said, she smiles, make you want to smile. And a shallow depth of field isolates the subject, keeps her the primary focus, and it gives context in the environment without clutter. The blurred background helps highlight your produce without detracting from the subject, and the composition is nice because it's like a 3/4 angle with her position, and it's kind of balanced, so the viewer is first drawn to her smile and then to the produce that she's handling. So this personally, I would like a little more space above her head, but I this could work for me as well.
Yeah, the colours in this image are very, very bright, very, very vibrant, and I like them. There's just a couple of things I think that annoy me, and I'm not sure if, because of the placing of everything that's going on, I'm not sure whether you could do anything about it. That strip light that's directly above his head is really annoying, and it's causing issues with the exposure on his face because it's so bright. Now, everywhere else in the image is bright, but it's not as critical to darken it down as the other ones were, because you can see detail in his environment. It shows off the environment in which he's working, and for me that's good. It helps with the portrait. I may have cropped a little bit up that white up on that table because you've got a little sliver of a corner in the bottom left-hand side, and I got rid of that. And if possible, I may have gone in closer or come out a little bit to try to get rid of the Amir sign at the top, fresh goat and lamb. I think that's kind of, because it's dominant, because it's sharp, and it's possibly one of the sharpest things in the image, it draws your eye away. So I would do that. I was going to suggest a crop, but I kind of like the goat or sheep heads there. I kind of like that left in the image, because I think that again adds another storytelling element to the picture. It was said last night, so if you weren't there last night, have a look round the edges of your picture and clone out anything that's distracting. It's a pity about, it's such a pity about that light above his head. Anyway, that's me done. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Yeah, I agree. The light above his head is a bit of a distraction. Also, on the right corner, the right side of the image, where you've got below the Amir fresh lambs, also chicken, ducks. So you've got a green, I think it's a green plastic bag, and then to the right of that, you've got this big white container, which I guess is also plastic of some type. So I just toned that down just a little bit, because again, your eye goes over to that, and because it's very bright, you sort of stay in that area for a little while. The only other thing, yeah, Gary mentioned the cropping at the bottom. I agree. The Blue Waters sign, the Blue Waters bottle, it's a grab. So you may not have had it or may not have seen it, but it's a grab. So you may not have been out had the opportunity to ask him just to move the bottle, below the thing for you. The only other thing that is his left hand is not in the frame. I don't know. I would love to see his left hand. I would love to see that other hand in the frame so that it balances him as a human. Um, but I love the environmental, the treatment of the environmental um, shot, portrait, sharp, well lit. You've got all the elements that let us know exactly what this person is doing for a living in his environment. You can ask for more in that way. It's just those couple of things that I think would make it stronger. The left hand has me. I think I need to have that left hand somewhere in the frame to make me feel a bit better in terms of balancing him as a person. Nisha?
Yeah, nothing much to add. It's an authentic depiction, and I agree with the comments that were previous.
With this image here, you seem to have, they're still bright, but the lights have calmed down a lot in this picture. So that's good. I don't mind the out of focus. I don't know what they are. Shrimp or something, is it, in the front? I don't mind those. I may have done a little bit of crop to crop off the pipe on the right-hand side and then toned everything down in the background. The picture would be much more engaging if you could actually see his face. You can see from the bottom of his nose down to, down to his arms. And I think in order to engage me, you need to see more of his face. There's a few things in the background which are really bright. The people working in the background, 3 at the back, the red, green, and blue person, and is it a fire extinguisher hanging up, and the red piece below that are a little bit, a little bit of a distraction. I would have got rid of those. And if you could get rid of the distractions and have a look at his face, I think it would make a much more engaging portrait. And if you can't see his face from there, or you can't get rid of the distractions, move around, have a walk round and see if you can get it from a different angle, or maybe go see somebody else in there. I think that the hat for me is a little bit off-putting. Over to you, Hugh.
I agree. The hat, when I first looked at this image, that's the thing that stood out to me in terms of making it go to the next level, or allowing it to go to the next level, was the fact that I couldn't engage with him fully because of the hat. And I thought maybe moving a bit to the right, because since his hat is obviously, the brim of the hat is obviously on this side, maybe moving a bit to the right to see if you can get a bit of his eye, a bit of his cheek, a bit of his nose into the frame would help. That would help you probably engage more with him and give us that better feeling from environmental perspective, portrait perspective. The other thing is, it's such an interesting scene in what he's doing that we could also have gone in a bit tighter and focused more on the actual action with his hands as a tighter portrait, as a tighter shot. So no more, not an environmental portrait now, but I'm going in and shot very tight with his hands, scaling the fish, and get some of that motion, some of that action there to give us a different type of image. So that's an opportunity you can look at next time also, because he is there working very hard at that. You can see the knife in his hand, and that gives a lovely action shot with possibilities there also. Again, as Gary indicated, dealing with the background. Remember, you always have to deal with the background. You have to be cognizant of the fact that things that are in the background will detract your viewer from your prime subject. So you have to deal with them. You have to take a little time, look around the image, and finish the image off by trying to reduce those distractions as much as possible. Again, well use of shallow depth of field, very good use of shallow depth of field. The lighting, the exposure is very, very good. Bright, clean, image is sharp where it needs to be sharp. but I think that we could have gotten maybe 2 or 3 wonderful images out of this particular type of action by shifting around or by going in closer to encompass more of the action with his hands, or going a little lower perspective and shoot up so we get more of his face into it. So that's it for me.
All right. So to give us a little bit of context, I was standing with Sarita when she asked this gentleman if she could take this picture, and he said yes, as long as you don't show my face. And she asked if she could take a picture of him working. So I think this was a choice of his to kind of hide his eyes. I still like the tension in his mouth, though. I think it still gives it a little bit of expression. And like Hugh said, it's a candid moment of showing a vendor immersed in his work, so it gives it a bit of authenticity. The thing that stood out for me the most is that the blur on the shrimp, it didn't feel natural because the crate at the bottom is not blurred. It's pretty sharp, it's kind of big, and it has strong color and size. So for me, I would crop that, either crop it or blur it, because that element competes and disrupts the visual flow for me. So that, because it's a huge sharp object at the bottom there. That and the kind of magenta plastic bag on the left side. So other than that, I think composition is good. Is a good placement of the vendor among his workstation. I know Sarita moved around to try to get different angles of him, but he was really being evasive. So yeah, this was a nice candid shot for me.
Can I ask a question? What lens was used and what focal length? Just a query.
So I have to confess, I had my camera with a 45 millimeter 2.8, but I used my iPhone for most of these shots in portrait mode.
In portrait mode. Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Oh, Sarita, also good puns or double meaning on all the naming of your images. The first one was Bush Doctor, and I think the second one was called Ram Goat Liver.
Yeah, that's for my Jamaicans.
Yeah.
A little Pluto Shivington.
Yeah, and this is small scale, yes? So it's very funny.
If you do get a chance to go back and engage with him, I know he's camera shy, but yeah, if you get a chance to go back and engage with him, try, as I said, to get some action shots of his actually doing scaling a fish and things of that type. The perspective you have here, and if you get in close and get some action shots, I think it could be quite lovely.
I'll definitely go back and try. Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you, judges, and thank you, the members of the Trinidad and Tobago Photo Club, for those images. So we're going to move on to the images from Jamaica now. And to give us a background of the day, I'm going to ask Ian Gage, who is a member of our executive for this year and for next year as well, to give us an overview of the photo walk in Jamaica. Ian, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Evening. Our photo walk this year, we had to actually shift it at the last moment, almost, because we were actually going to go to a part of East Kingston, which was one of the old residential communities, which actually is also still the residence of our largest prison, the General Penitentiary. But due to some activities by our constabulary, we were not able to, we didn't feel comfortable going there at that time anymore. So we shifted into downtown Kingston. And also, so for all our friends on here, whenever they come to Jamaica, the last Sunday of the month, there's a group called Kingston Creative that are trying to get a revival of downtown Kingston through art. And so there's a thing called Kingston Creative. So they were actually, that was actually the same day that they were having something. So we said, okay, well, let's shift over there. So we went to downtown Kingston, and specifically in the area where Kingston Creative is operating. And so we also had a small group this year. We had 8 participants, and only 4 submitted. So it's very similar to Trinidad and Tobago. So our location this year was into an urban setting. What we missed out on, in fact, is that the original site also had a fishing beach attached to it, which, you know, we had made arrangements to go and visit the beach and get some landscape work there and the activities of the fishing beach. So we lost that. But in this setting where we were now, it's that urban, very commercial, the old part of Kingston, the city of Kingston, which is going through this revival, as we say. And so it's a kind of a festival style setup that was there with stalls and a sound system, food trucks, and then of course the patrons that were there and the people that were milling around and visiting the site. So we walked around there, and we walked around the side street, and you'll see some. I think in some of the images you'll see some of the area where they have now a lane in downtown Kingston called Water Lane has been now completely covered in murals. So they get picked up in some of the images. So yeah, so let me see. Yes, so that's basically what our photo walk was this year. So you will see things from that urban setting in our images. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ian. I'm just gonna share a slideshow now. We'll look through all the slides initially, and then we'll allow our judges to go through the images individually. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to hand over to our judges. Let me just switch slideshows, and then we'll get going.
I guess it's my turn to start first.
Yes, that is correct, Hugh. Let me get you something so that you can start talking about. Okay, our first, a bit of an echo. Our first photographer is Angela Mitchell, calling our ancestors.
Based on the description that Ian gave us before of the day, I'm going to assume, may be incorrect, that this was a stage, this was part of a performance being done by this group of young men, this group of 6 young men, on a stage somewhere and during your walk. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, great. Okay, so what we have in terms of the environmental side of it is good. You've got the young men, they're setting up, they are preparing for their show, they're engaged with one another, etc. From a photographic point of view, we've got very strong backlight here. So it's very difficult to see any detail in the guys' outfits or their faces. So it's difficult to really engage with them in that manner. So we've got to watch that backlight. We've got to manage that in terms of how we set our camera up to shoot this particular spot in terms of exposure, etc. If possible, and you had a fill flash, a nice fill flash would have worked well to just fill in that forelight so that you can get some light onto them and get a bit more engagement in their faces, their smiles, their eyes, anything of that type. So this is where this is basically fallen down. And in terms of what's happening, there's nothing more you can do about what's happening. They're engaged, they're working together to set up to prepare for a show. But the actual lighting that you have that has been used for the shot has not given us the ability to engage fully with it because you can't see the expressions properly, you can't see the detail on their clothes properly. So that's where I think we would need to work on that particular aspect of it. Because so that when you're shooting backlit, you have that to deal with. You have to deal with that situation where strong light coming behind the subject into the lens is going to fool your exposure meter. And you have to then, as the cameraman or the person taking the image, you have to make the adjustment to accommodate that. That's it for me.
All right, good points as usual, Hugh. Personally, I would change the composition a bit. That foreground, that large speaker at the foreground in the lower part of the image, I think that takes a lot of your attention because it's this big spot right at the front. So maybe a different angle to eliminate that. Or in terms of the name of the store, the image, I would probably want to highlight key subjects, maybe crop it in slightly closer to focus more tightly on the musicians, to create a more intimate feel, or to bring the viewer's attention a little bit directly to the performers without all the peripheral distractions, because you have a lot of stuff going on in the back and then that strong backlight. So highlighting key subjects as well as maybe some of the interactions, hone in on some of the interactions more to get that story element. That's it for me.
Thank you. I agree with Hugh and Nisha in what they've said. I would just like to tell you a few of the things in the image that appeal to me and I really like. I like the shape of the canopy above the head. I think that's really good. I agree with toning down of the exposure in the background. I think your camera seems to have exposed for the shadows and not the highlights, and the highlights are blown out and the shadows really do need lifting. If you'd have done 2 or maybe 3 images and then put them together in post, you could have exposed for the highlights, the shadows and the darks in here and then got a more balanced image. I think that would have worked well. I'm busy looking at the picture on the back of the phone there, which is perfectly balanced, and that's what you should have been aiming for. I like the interaction between the 6 guys. I think that's good. I love the smile of the guy with the hat on, almost in the middle. I think that works very well. But like both my colleagues said, we need to see more detail. We need to see more detail in those black shirts. We need to see more details in the faces and those smiles. That's me. Thank you.
I have a love of old trains and old buses, old cars. I find them very interesting and very wonderful subjects to take pictures of. I think that this had a lot of potential. There's a lot of potential in this location and these 2 beautiful older trains. One, it looks like a steam train on the left-hand side. So let's take a look at this. Different perspective in that we filled the frame with both of these very huge objects, but we don't have any personality or any true interaction with them. Your point of view is directly standing up, shooting them straight up, flat on. When you're shooting objects of this type, which have a lot of character, a lot of lines, lots of patina, rust, all lovely things of that type, you have to experiment with different perspectives. Low, to the left, to the right. Sometimes even if you can have the opportunity to get on a ladder, high and down, so that you have different views of it that you can go back home and see which one works best in terms of bringing out the character of the elements that you're shooting. Because these 2 trains, or train and caboose, these have a lot of character in them. They have a lot of potential for wonderful creative images. It's your responsibility as a photographer or artist to bring out the best in what you see in front of you. And in this case, you've captured them, yes, very well in terms of exposures, good. They could be a bit brighter in certain areas and a bit dark in certain areas of dodging burning. The images are sharp, but you've not put any creativity in it by trying to find or trying to adjust your position, your point of view to create something that is unique. So I would say that this is a do-over. You need to go back to this location. You need to probably walk with a wide angle lens or medium to wide angle lens, 16 to 35 or 20 to, depending on what type of camera you're shooting with. If you're shooting APS-C, you may, 16 to 35 on APS-C. If you have a full frame, a 24, 20, 24, anything in that range, even a 16 to 35 in there. Walk with your tripod. Make sure that the lighting of the day is adequate and good for you, or and then spend an hour or 2 hours experimenting and exploring this location with different point of view, using different point of views. Explore also intimate shots with these 2 beautiful objects. All the lines, all of the iron work, etc., will give you some beautiful abstract and minimalistic artistic shots. But you've got to spend the time to really experiment and explore this location. I am honestly here jealous that I don't have access to these 2 beautiful pieces of machinery, because they are wonderful. So you have a do-over. Yeah, Get out there, carry some different lenses, take some time, use different point of views, go in close to get some of the details, come out far, a little bit wider, get down low, shoot up, go to the left, go to the right, go between them, everything of that type. This is a treasure trove. That's it for me, sorry.
All right, just picking up on two words used by Hugh, character and details. I'm also a lover of train, and one of the things I love are the details. You know, some of the, like the rivets, the pipes, and the mechanical features on the steam engine, sharpening those, you know, using clarity adjustments, and those could just to make those textures and details pop. Is really, that would already start improving the look and feel of this historical, you know, steam engine. So everything else that Hugh said is has a lot of valid points, but definitely my contribution would be focused on those details. I know we have a lot of blown highlights in the back and stuff, but they don't bother me as much. But the highlights on the locomotive itself, it takes away from the details as well. So to try to pull back some of those would be good. Yep, over to you, Gary.
Thank you. I clearly agree with most of what my colleagues said. Now, the background does bother me, just so you know, but not as much as the highlights that are falling on the engine. I think if you calm them down, that would make for a better image. Or I don't know what the availability and the time was. If you come back at twilight where you haven't got that bright light on the background, put it on a tripod and just photograph it like you're photographing a landscape. If you need to keep your shutter open longer, then keep it open longer, but make sure that your image is critically sharp. What I would have done with the front of the engine, the engine nearest to it, I would have got all that information in there, maybe a little bit of the track, as much as the one on the right hand side. You've got a bit of track in front. I'd have done the same thing with this. I would have also boosted the saturation in some of those reds to make those reds pop. Not overly, don't go silly with it, but just a little bit more to make those pop. Hugh mentioned going back there with different lenses and trying different areas and different compositions. Try a macro lens as well. Get in there and have a look at some close details. Have a look at sets of rivets that cause a abstract pattern. Look at the pipe work and all the other stuff that's going on there. I think it's a treasure trove of images. We talk about an image within an image all the time as photographic judges. Well, you've almost got a portfolio of images here that you can go through and take. And I would take great advantage of that. I'm lucky enough to live in the East Midlands, and we've got a restored steam railway that runs all the time, and we get the opportunity to go down and photograph these steam engines working in steam, taking passengers from one place to another, and that's a really exciting time. So please go back if you can and get some real detail of some of these engines. Thank you.
Okay. This one, it's a good attempt at, it's a very good attempt at isolating that subject, focusing on it, making it very prominent in your frame. What I do think we could work on here is basically the exposure, I think, needs to come down a bit so that there is a greater delineation between the shadows and the highlights. Also, the background needs to come down a bit also, so that that object, your Chubb London, I'm thinking it's a lock, is more prominent, more, it stands out more to the viewer. It lacks sharpness in certain areas. So again, this may be a situation where you may have been doing this handheld, and it would require you to use a tripod to get critical sharpness in all aspects of this particular of the object. Because I think it's a bit at the bottom where, yeah, at the bottom it's a bit out of focus, and a bit at the top also. Well, the top is fairly decent. The left hand side is slightly out of focus. The right hand side of the image is quite in focus at the top, quite sharp. Chubb London is good, but as you come down the image, you start to lose the sharpness and the clarity that you need to really show the details in this particular object. Now, again, this is something that I love to work with, these types of old objects, these types of weathered, rusty things. So critical sharpness is very important with these. Critical sharpness is very important to give that full detail of the image. Then again, then is your lighting. You have to work on your lighting in terms of understanding that you have to bring that object to the foreground and engage the viewer with the object. So it means you have to have critical sharpness, you have to make sure your background is not competing with the object, and then you have to work on various areas in terms of going back again to dodging and burning of certain areas, so you bring out the detail and three-dimensionality of the object. It's a good attempt, a very good attempt at the start. What you need to work on here, I think, basically is, as indicated, the background needs to be a bit darker. Not overly dark, but a bit darker because it's slightly competing. You've shot it in flat. It may have been flat, very flat light, because the light is very, very flat on the object. There's very few shadows. So you may need to go back and either shoot it in a situation where the lighting is slightly different, or bring a torchlight with you and set your camera up on a tripod, and then use a torchlight or some small light, a small LED light, whatever, to create the shadows that you would want to enhance the three-dimensionality of the object. And then work on your sharpness. Tripod, make sure you're critically sharp throughout the whole frame or throughout the whole plane of the object, and this would be beautiful. It would be interesting also when you finish that, when you've done that, in terms of taking that shot again and working on it, is also to try it in black and white and see how it looks as a black and white image. It may not pop at the beginning, but you never know. It may become a very beautiful black and white image also, if you've done the work to enhance the shadows and three-dimensionality of it. That's it for me.
Right. So yes, I think the background blue, it works to isolate the lock. I would, while it's effective, I think yes, I would make it a little darker just to enhance the lock's outline. The lighting, yes, very harsh, especially on the metal surface. So you get some reflective hotspots, you get some overexposed areas. So another option would be to use like diffuse lighting, because I don't know what kind of lighting you were working with. I don't know if it was a flashed use or if the lock was in direct sunlight, whatever it is. I think it needs some more diffuse lighting would help bring out the texture without overpowering the highlights. I think a slight reduction in brightness and highlights in post-processing could also help to balance it. Yes, sharpening the focus, especially around the inscription and those kind of details that would enhance the textures, will be helpful as well. Yeah, that's it from me.
Thanks, Nisha. The background doesn't really bother me. Some of the highlights on the lock and the post behind they could have been controlled better. But the thing is, you're photographing a static lock. Everything, including the lighting, the background, the highlights, the shadows, are in your control. You have complete and utter control over everything. I would have liked to have seen critical sharpness. That Chubb London should be jumping out at me, because that's what you want us to look at. Everything else should be critically sharp. And to be fair, it's a little bit soft in places that you mentioned and Nisha. And I think if you'd have done those things, you'd have a much more engaging image. If it was sharper, it would hold your attention, and we wouldn't get the issue of saying that you need to darken the background down. I think if you drop the exposure generally across the image, that background would obviously go darker as well anyway. But it's the sharpness that bothers me. Thank you.
I just want to double back a second to this and the image before. And I want to say to the photographer, please understand that we are seeing potential. We are seeing potential in what you're trying to do here in terms of the images you're trying to create, the type of images you're trying to create. So stick with it, please. Please stick with it. I think that you're getting there in terms of your vision. Your vision is you're seeing things, and that's the most important thing. The thing about photography is what makes us different, photographers different from a lot of other persons around the world, is that when we walk around and we look around, we look at the world quite differently than a lot of other people. We are all constantly looking, constantly trying to see things, constantly trying to see what is around us that makes an image, what is around us that different, what is around us that we can isolate and bring forth and let people see that they don't ordinarily see. So keep at it, keep trying, keep executing, listen to what has been, said by Gary and Nisha and myself, and go back and do these things, go back and at these again. You have wonderful opportunities here. Go back and go at them again.
Okay, thank you. Our next photographer is Ian Gage. The first image is Sir T Transport.
I'm bringing it up on my screen here also while you've got it there, Chuck. Oh, okay, great. Yeah. Very nice interaction again. Environmental portrait. I'm based on what Ian was saying before, it's an artist area that's now, emerging, where you've got street artists and artists building up again and trying to bring art to the forefront in Jamaica. And this is probably one of those artists. It's a nice box cart. I haven't seen a box cart like this in years. It's really nice. Brings back memories. I love the engagement. I love the setting, the way it's set. You're not shooting straight on, you've come a bit over so that you get a feeling of the box cart and a feeling of the interaction between the owner of the box cart and the cart itself. The background is out of focus, well done. Could be a little bit toned down just slightly, but not too much. So you've hit what needs to be sharp critically, and you've kept what needs to be out of focus. Well done. The crop itself is good. I don't see any necessity to make any major changes to the crop. Maybe you could bring in a little bit on the right hand side if you wanted to, but I don't think that's really truly going to affect the feel and the vision of the image that much, the balance of the image that much. There is the little tent behind the steering wheel of the box cart. It's a bit distracting, but that's where it was. Maybe if you shifted a little bit to the left, it wouldn't be that much of a distraction, but then you may not have gotten the interaction with the gentleman on the right as much as you wanted to. So it's a trade-off sometimes. On the other thing, maybe a slight vignette to just darken the edges of the frame a bit. It is sharp where it needs to be sharp on my screen. I don't see anything that's blown out too much. Yes, maybe a little bit there by again on the box cart, the left corner of the box cart, top left corner of that particular pylon, which is very white. You could probably tone that down a little bit also. But beyond that, I like the engagement. I love the box cart. I love the authenticity of it. In terms of saturation, it's good. I wouldn't overdo very much in terms of the colors. That's it for me. I think it's a really nice, engaging image. Well done.
Yeah, I agree with that. Ian, this is a really evocative street portrait. It has a lot of character and storytelling, the man in the red hat next to the cart, he has a distinct presence. It adds a nice personal touch to the urban setting. And the image has a sense of place and personality. I like his relaxed posture, expressive gaze. He feels like part of the environment, not just a passerby. I like the cart, all the elements, the use of color. That red hat immediately draws the eye and create a strong focal point. And that contrasts nice with the nice softer tones in the background and stuff. So I really like those things. I don't have much to add to what Hugh said, except personally, I would just boost the texture and clarity on the cart's wood and metal surfaces. And I think that would just add a little more to the grittiness and urban character of the image. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with everything that's been said. I think I'm instantly engaged with your character. He's a good character. He's looking at the camera. That kind of instantly engages me. The bright highlights in the background do bother me slightly above the canopy, especially. I think you can make that darker or crop some of it out. I think that would help your picture. He's engaged with you as a photographer, so I feel he knows that you're taking his photo. I would have then asked for a couple of photos. I'd get him standing up and then come at the side of the cart, getting the cart in because the cart's lovely, but then getting that graffiti as the backdrop. I think that would help, and that'd cut out some of the distractions that I was talking about. I mean, this is an opportunity where I think you can get 3 or 4 different types of images. I mean, you can get in with the cart, without the cart, standing up against the wall. There's numerous opportunities for more images. But anyway, well done. It's a pleasing image. I like the colours. I like the texture. I like the engagement. I'm drawn into the picture. I'm buying into your story. Thank you.
Okay, so here we have a street vendor, street food vendor. Pineapple, pineapple, sweet potato pie, probably with a little pineapple on the top. Nice. So engaged, she's engaged. She's not looking at the camera, but she is definitely showing her wares. She is happy. She's, very engaged with what she's selling. Looking around the frame, the 3 things at the top of the frame, we could probably try to remove those because there's a bit of a distraction. The bottom of the frame, bring the crop up a little bit to get rid of some of that white at the bottom of the frame. Possibly a smaller vignette again. But as it is a environmental portrait of someone who's selling, who is engaged with what they're doing, showing off their wares, it would be nice to have her looking direct at the camera, but again, her looking at what she's selling and obviously showing pride in it, because that's what I'm seeing from the story that I'm seeing here, is also very good. Just those few minor things, I think, but it's an engaging image.
Yeah, I agree with that. The expression, the posture of the woman, like revealing her food and her engagement with the food, it shows a kind of pride in her product, and the gaze directed at the cake draws the viewer's eyes to the food, which creates a kind of natural flow within the composition. So I think that works. I definitely would remove those 3 I think they're called pendants. Especially because triangles are very strong in a composition, and they their eyes go there automatically. So I would take those out. I think it's pineapple upside down cake. I was trying to remember it when you said it. And I think highlighting the food texture a little bit more, emphasizing the texture would make it a little more appealing. Maybe a little more contrast and clarity on the cake itself to bring out that kind of golden crust and pineapple. Of the pineapple and cherries. So it's a charming picture. Thanks, Ian.
Pineapple instead of cake.
Yeah, yes.
Well, interesting, in Barbados, we actually put pineapples on top of the sweet potato pie also. So,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
well, cultural differences.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
That pineapple upside down cake is very UK, very British. We have that all the time, and that's exactly what it looks like, even that size. I think the triangle at the top, I think it's called bunting. I would have got rid of the bunting like they said, and maybe just cloned out all the little white spots above her head as well. The other thing I was thinking about, I've had a little bit more time to look at the picture than my two colleagues. I would have got her to hold that lid at her waist height. Then you would get rid of that thing in the belt, the bags or whatever they are in the belt. It would also act as a reflector, bouncing some of that light back up in her face. So it would work twofold for me. One, stopping that bright highlight at her waist, and two, maybe bouncing a little bit of light. But I do like the interaction with the seller and the product. That's all well. It's an engaging portrait. I'm drawn into it. Yeah, and I like everything about it. The crop at the bottom would be good. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Oh, Gary, I love that tip about holding the cover at that angle. That's well seen.
Thank you.
Yeah, give me a second. We just rotate this one on my screen also. Okay. All right. All right. I love this. I just love the smell. I love it's like peace be unto you, you know, just peace be unto you. And it's a lovely smile, it's a lovely engaging image. Um, Looking at it in terms of technical issues, yeah, we've got a little bright spot in the top left-hand corner. Could we crop down a bit? Yes, we could. Would it affect the composition? Maybe a little bit because it's going to compress the composition a bit by coming down from the top. But we could try it and see how it looks. If we don't like it, we go back and we just tone down that highlight on the top left-hand corner. The bottom is fine. On the right-hand side is fine. The left-hand side is fine because it's giving you an idea of his environment. You're leading in his environment, so you can see the environment he's in and get a feel for the environment. The environment is not out of focus. In other words, you've not chosen a shallow depth of field to kill the environment, but you've left the environment there so we can get a sense of him being in his working environment or his day-to-day environment. The red chair is nice, complements the red pole in the background, and is not complements also well, the hat he's wearing, so it all brings that out and sort of harmonizes the whole thing. From point of view of color saturation is nice. You haven't overdone the colors. You haven't gone crazy in terms of saturation or anything like that. And it's sharp where it needs to be sharp. It could be a little bit sharper in the face. No, let me just get a little closer. No, it looks good. It looks good. I love it. I love it. Street portraits are so hard to do. To find people who are willing and to pose for you. Total stranger coming into the Massam for a picture. In this world today is a lot of skepticism about people and what they're doing. To find someone who's willing to pose for you and to pose and smile this way and be so nice and charming is wonderful. Well done.
I definitely agree on that. Street photography is hard. So yes, the subject's relaxed pose, warm smile, creates a nice sense of approachability, has personality, slightly tilted head works, the folded hands, they add a kind of casual, comfortable feel to the shot, allows you to connect to this character. The background is engaging, and like you said, you chose not to blur it out so that you can give it a sense of place. So that's it's a choice that works, because the murals reflect some kind of artistic culture of the location and enhances the story behind the photograph. Personally, I would have taken the photograph at a lower angle. I know it's taken probably at eye level, which works great. I would just experiment with a little lower angle to make the subject appear more prominent and add a kind of dynamism. So, and I think that angle would still capture your background, but it'll just emphasize the subject even more. That's it for me. Over to you, Gary.
Thank you. I am that used to asking people if I can take their photos that it becomes second nature to me. I do quite a bit of portrait photography, and I'm going to absolutely shock my judges when I tell them that I never use anything less than a 20mm lens. I always use a wide angle lens for my portraiture. It's a long story, but that's what I always use it. On an APS camera, I've used a 10mm lens, and on my full frame camera, I use a 17. But now I'm on a full frame camera and I'm using a 16, and that's what I do. And I get them up, and I get, well, you have to get close to them to get them. So clearly, it's not a situation where you cannot get away with not asking if you can take the photo. Anyway, back to your picture. I would definitely do the crop at the top, because then that way you get rid of the white spot in the corner, and you get this little bit of a triangle red sign in this corner as well. You achieve both those in one shot. I love the recession going back from the sharpest wall going right down to where that P is, and I was wondering whether I needed to remove that P or not, but that's me again being really fussy about it. The thing that I would do, there's a cigarette butt down beside his leg. I would have got rid of that and maybe tidied up a few of the spots on the floor. That's me being ultra picky. But his face is so engaging. I mean, his whole personality, his character is so engaging that you know, I don't care what would have been going off in the background. You're going to be pulled in and you're going to be attracted to that face. He's got an engaging face. You're catching some of this gentleman's personality here. And I said that about a couple of images. And that's actually the biggest compliment that I can give you. You've elevated it from a normal snapshot to actually capturing some of the gentleman's characteristics, his lovely, engaging smile, the tilt of the head adds to the dynamism in the picture for me. It gives you that diagonal going all the way through the picture. So I think that is really good. And he looks like he's the sort of person who you could go to, you could speak to, strike up a conversation with. And that's what I tend to do when I'm taking a portrait of somebody. I strike up a conversation with them. We start by doing that. And you know what? You know, sometimes people say no, move on. See, it's simple as that. Don't feel a way about it. Just move on to another person. Anyway, great portrait, and I love it. Thank you.
Let me just take about one thing with this one again too. This is really nice. Gary, thanks for pointing out that little cigarette butt. I didn't see it as wonderful, because this is a portrait. This is an image that you can see being used by a tourism board to promote your culture, or promote your island, or promote part of Jamaica. It has that feeling to it. It has that feeling of welcome. So well done in capturing that feeling and giving that emotion out in this shot. Well done.
I echo that.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
So this is a street portrait, right? At what point would too much cleaning up be too much? Like, for instance, like the cigarette on the floor is part of the environment, in my opinion. So I was just wondering why it was so necessary to take it out. I mean, I know if you're using it for the tourism board is one thing, but just as a portrait of a man.
I think it becomes personal choice. Like with any piece of art, it's personal choice. If you take the photo and you want that in, you consciously want that cigarette in there, keep it in there. But I would go beyond cleaning the cigarette up. I would go and remove some of the black dots on there, which I said as well. I'd remove those as well. I may even try to remove the poster, which is behind the red and white pole. I do a lot of cleaning up in the image.
Yep, it's personal choice. It depends. Well, it depends on a couple of things. What is the use of the image in the end? If the use of the image in the end is to depict the actual location as it is and the person as it is, documentary style, then you leave everything in, because you're documenting the specific location as it is, was, for history or for, whatever. If the intent of use is artistic, or probably advertising. Then you take creative license. You can take creative license from there within a certain bounds. For advertising, obviously within certain bounds, and for artistic purposes, there are no bounds.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, judges, our next photographer is Pierre Sobers,
So that's
and this is his first image.
okay. All right. Interaction between the players or the persons within the frame is very good. I do feel like I need a little bit more on the left hand side for her. I find her cutting the frame like that a bit restricted on her left hand side. Sorry, yeah, her right, our left, the camera left. Cutting the frame is a bit tight. I think I need a bit more light on the face of the gentleman. It's a bit dark here, there, and I need a bit more details, a bit more light on him so I can see him a bit better. His whole section of the image, I think, needs just brightening a bit because obviously what probably happened is your exposure was caught by that white shirt and of the girl, and that probably forced exposure a bit more towards her than towards him. So in post, probably cleaned up a bit to add a bit more of the bit more light on him, just a little bit, not very much, just to bring him out a bit more into the image and make him more prominent in the image also. In terms of cropping, I don't see very much to crop. I would like a little bit more on the left, but nothing to crop. In the background, you've got those two bottles that we can remove if you wanted to, again, depending on the use of the image. You've got the story of the bag on the ground, two bags there, and this game of dominoes being played, and she's challenging him either that he's cheating or he's playing the fool or something of that type. So you can see the interaction between them. The interaction is good. Colors are well handled. It's not too much saturation in the shirts, yellow. The door, the background, they're muted reds. The on the ground, muted reds again, and grays are handled well. Exposure's relatively good except for that area we discussed before. And I find it engaging. It's very engaging. I just would like to see a bit more on the left with regard to her shoulder and that arm.
Yeah, those were my points as well. And engaging is definitely the word I would use. Nice interaction. It seems natural. Body language, expressive gesture. It has nice contrast with the clothing and the environment. Background has some distracting elements. So the current crop, I think, cuts off some of those elements and leaves this empty space that doesn't add much to the story. So maybe slightly tighter crop on the two subjects, but because that like you said, Hugh, that arm being chopped off on the left, that it just takes away from it.
Yeah.
So
maybe the photographer could have shifted a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I guess you can do generative AI and fill it and get back her arm. Right. So the lighting, yes, it is flat and soft. It kind of works with the scene. Maybe just a slight adjustment to a little bit more contrast to give it a little more brightness. And definitely, yes, you need to bring back some details on the guy's face. So, yeah, that's it from me.
I agree with all those things that have been said by the two judges before me. You definitely need to have the whole of that arm in the picture. Maybe give the young lady as much room as you're giving the gentleman there with his arm. And here's the things that they didn't say, but I'd say, and I don't really want to freak anybody out too much, but here's what I'd do. I'll tell you anyway. I've removed the white spot from behind her head. I think it's distracting. Above his head, you've got a pipe coming out in the middle of his head or a black mark coming out the middle of his head. I would remove that. And I'd go as far as removing the 1, 2, 3 other marks above his head and one slightly to the left. I'd remove the thing that looks like a pipe and the black oblong shape as well. And I would also, if you look on the edge, it's like a window or a doorway. It looks more like a window there that's really dark. I would get rid of that as well. The little bit of background that you can see doesn't bother me so much. But like my colleague said, I would definitely get some more light on his face. And I may even be tempted to get rid of that thing that's hanging out his pocket. Definitely the two bottles, maybe the bag, but I'd look what that look like. That's me, thank you.
I think the thing is hanging out his pocket is another domino. So it may add to the story that he's actually cheating or something like that type.
Oh, right, okay, I understand now.
Yeah. And just to again just circle back to the previous conversation we had with someone in the team in the Zoom meeting about what we would take out, what we wouldn't take out. And it goes to basically if you're entering an exhibition or you're going to put this into a gallery as a piece of art, and street photography is art, you then need to look and see what you want to do to make this image stand out. And sometimes you've got to make many decisions to take certain things or to remove certain things so that you can bring the focus of the image to where you want it to be. If it's, again, a documentary piece for a newspaper, you're probably not going to touch very much of the image at all. Besides exposure, contrast, maybe a bit of sharpening, and sometimes even a crop, but that's about it.
Okay, I kind of agree with what you're saying, but I'm talking about what I would do if it was my picture. The other thing I want to say, you had a bit of a message about earlier on, and I totally agree with what you said about don't take it to heart what we as judges say, because your opinion as a photographer is just as important and just as valid as ours. And if you like it and I don't like it, well, I can only refer to a soccer match. That's one each. That's
Yes.
one goal for you or one goal for me.
Yeah.
We're not in the business as judges to put people off taking photos. Hopefully, we're all here to try to encourage each other to take more photos and hopefully do better.
Totally agree. 1000% with you. Okay, so we have a picture of a mural. And in isolation, it's difficult to judge or comment, for me specifically, to judge or comment on pictures of art done by someone else. So this is someone else's art. This is a mural. It's a picture of a mural. I would comment or I would judge if we added an element of a human being walking through, or a dog, or an animal, a cat, a cow, whatever, walking through, and it was timed in a certain way to create a story that fits with the mural. It being a mural and a picture of a mural, a picture of somebody else's art, then there's nothing much I can say about it, other than it is sharp and well exposed.
All right. So what I got from it is it's like a sense of place that you're showing us that there's a mural here that, hey, we could go check it out. So I think one of the things that would help engage the viewer more without adding the human element, because you mentioned that already, is maybe like highlighting the texture of the area itself, the smoothness, the roughness of the wall, paint, anything that will add some depth and make the mural feel more, something that you could feel like you're there, give it a more three-dimensional feel to the image. But definitely agree that it is difficult to comment on a picture of a picture. So, yeah, that's it for me.
Everything that my colleagues before me said, I agree with. I mean, it's sharp, the colours are vibrant, I'm looking through all the words and the slogans and what's happening, and that's all fitting with these Jamaican heroes here. So it all kind of works well. But I'll go back to the stuff that Hugh and Nisha said is, what are you adding to this image? I mean, ask yourself that question. What are you adding to this image? And then that'll, if you can come up with an answer to that, you'll know what your input for this image was. You've taken a photograph of the mural, graffiti, or everything like that, and I can't see what you've added to the image. That's the point I'm trying to make. Anyway, thank you.
And again, please do not take what we just said in any, thing way. Basically, what we want you to do, or we're looking you to do, helping you to do, is to try to tell a story. So capturing the mural is wonderful. It's a documentary picture of the mural, which is good because someone may come and vandalize that mural, and you've lost that sense of place, that sense of the mural. And having a documentary picture is good. Now, you as a photographer, you want to add a little something to that. If you want to take it from a documentary type picture to another type of artwork or image, you want to add now your flavor to it. You want to add something from you, something from inside you, or something that you feel to that image. So this is where you sit there and you wait for 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, until a likely subject passes by in a green and yellow, with a green and yellow outfit, or a contrasting very red outfit, and you time it so that you catch them in such a way that they're interacting with the mural. Now you've created something, right? So that's your challenge now, is to go back to this mural and wait for that timing and wait for that interesting thing to happen and to capture it and come back now with something that is yours.
Can I just come in again, Hugh, before you pass over to Nisha?
Sure.
You're perfectly right in what you're saying. You should engage with one of your friends and get your friends to dress up as a jogger and just jog through the image and get some motion blur of somebody running through the image. I think that'd be perfect.
Use colors that are complementary or adjacent to these colors. Green and yellow, or red and something else that will stand out against the mural, or that will blend with the mural in such a way that they look as if they're part of the actual running, right? So that it now becomes a story within a story. Yeah. Grabber belts, fruit juices. We are going to ask the photographer this one to change perspective a bit. You shot it from standing dead on, looking down at it. So you've got a picture of the fruit punch container with 3 or 4 or 5 juices on the top, and you documented it. But again, like we were discussing with the mural, you haven't added anything of your own flavor to it. So I'd want you to, if this is your subject, you find this interesting, and that's good. You find this particular layout and this particular object, this particular position on the street interesting, then change your point of view. Go down low. Let's go a little bit lower. Let's go a bit lower. Let's shoot those bottles against that grab a belt sign, and either blur the background so that the bottles are in complete sharpness, or blur or flip it the other way. Let's try to get someone coming up and their hand still in the low perspective, and their hand reaching for a bottle against the background. But let's try something different to add your own feeling, your own story to this. as it is, it's a documentary piece. Well done in terms of sharpness. You've captured the container very well. You've got it sharp. You've got the colors handled well. The exposure is very decent. You don't have anything too much blown out or dark or shadows that are muddy. So you've done that part, but you haven't added anything of yourself or your story to this. So that's where I want to see you do the next level with this type of image.
All right. So it is funny. There's some personality. You have a sense of culture that is happening there. Definitely, I think it's missing is some depth, because it's just a picture that you're shooting down. I think you have a lot of visual clutter in the background, the chair, some other objects, shallow depth of field could have worked here to blur out the background a little bit, keeping the focus on the juice. I think shooting at a different angle, lower angle, like you said, it could add some depth, allowing the bottles and the fruit and the container to appear more prominent. Help emphasize the texture and the details of the setup to make it a little more immersive. So for me, I think the angle is this thing that is not working. If I was doing it, it's something that I wouldn't shoot in this direction. But it is humorous. I smiled when I saw the name of it. So it's nice playful vibe. Over to you, Gary.
Yeah, like you, Nisha, I like the humour in the image. I think that works well. I agree that a lower angle would make it better. If you are going to present the image like this, then you should have had that end of the pineapple in the image, in my opinion. It may have added a little bit more interest in it if you'd have got some of the background in. I know it looks cluttery, but if you got some of the background in, it would have made it better. You're out on a photo walk, there must be other people with you. I'd get them to go sit down on the chairs just to add that little bit of your input into the picture. Anyway, nice try, thank you.
Okay, the final photographer from Jamaica is this fellow called Gerard Little. And this is his first image entitled Cultural Fusion.
When I took a look at this image, when I first looked at it, I was captivated with how the color scheme in the shirt is reflected or sort of is, harmonizes with what's behind him in terms of the wall. So that's a very good vision from the photographer to actually see that and see that color scheme of his shirt, everything sort of matches and works well. Lovely capture of the smoke and vapor that he's using. I'll just say it's vapor, vape. I wouldn't say anything else. It's sharp, very good interaction, very good eye interaction with the photographer. In terms of border control, well done. Just a few little things, but not very prominent. And it's a nice, engaging environmental photograph again, portrait again. But I am very captivated in how the color scheme comes together quite well with this particular image. I think it really comes together in that it's there, but he doesn't fade into the background. Because the blue in the shirt sort of still brings him out and separates him, but the rest of the colors in the shirt then sort of harmonizes the background quite well to give you a very nice color palette. Even his skin tones, etc., even his hair adds to is within that same color palette, which is really, really nice. His beard has aspects of the grays, etc., that is really nice also. I really like how it's framed and how the color palette works well. Color can be sometimes very challenging and very difficult, especially in street photography where you're dealing with a lot of unknowns and very quick decisions. This is really well done in terms of managing that color palette and also getting an engaging portrait.
All right. Yes, I agree. It is a nice, striking portrait. I like the movement of the smoke. I feel the portrait has a lot of personality, a lot of cultural resonance, colors, textures, the expression tells a good story, feels grounded, captivating. I like how the subject is gazing directly at the camera, along with the rising smoke. It gives the image a sense of intimacy, intrigue. Expression adds some nice depth, making the viewers wonder a little bit about the story, kind of drawing them into the frame. The coloring is nice. The like you said, these subjects pattern shoot it contrasts as well as kind of blends with the background with the muted textured background at the same time, but it's not, to me it's not bothered me at all. It's a nice combination of earthy and bright tones. And of course, all the texture that you got in the hair, bare hands, showing a kind of rugged athletic aesthetic. So personally, the only thing I would do, and that's personal choice, is I would do a little wider shot to give the subject a little more breathing room, no pun intended, on the left side. So I think, it's effective framing. So maybe showing a little bit more the pipe, so you can see the whole object. Little different things like a little wider shot for me, but it's really nice. It works. It's a really vibrant, compelling, full of personality portrait.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to say before we go any further that I think the shirt is hideous, but I totally 100% agree with what Hugh said. It looks like he's actually stepped out of that background. So well, not any other, most of the locations that we've seen tonight with that shirt on, I'll be telling you that it's the wrong shirt, it's hideous, and I wouldn't have photographed him. But it kind of works for me. The thing that I really like about the shirt is the contrasting colours. It's that aquamarine, the blue, that really helps it to jump out. Everything else, just like you said, actually matches. And I defy anybody to go and find another shirt that would match that background. I think you'd struggle. The other thing that I love the movement in the smoke. I think that kind of works for me. I'm kind of happy with the crop. I don't disagree with what Nishi was saying because I think it's down to personal choice. I wouldn't mind it being a little bit wider and seeing a little bit more of what's going on around him, and also giving that smoke a little bit more room so that you can see what's going off there. I love the expression on his face. I love the engagement that you've got here. That's the big thing. You've got that engagement. And it's not a thing it's not a thing you see in UK, full stop. Wouldn't be long before that guy was arrested and locked up for smoking weed in the street. I know it's legal in Jamaica, but not so in the UK. So again, that adds that little bit of interest in there for me. The engagement, the colour and the texture and tones in his locks are really good. His beard's good. Even down to his hideous shirt is good. So well done, photographer.
Gary, we were going to get a copy of that shirt. I send it to you.
Thank you. I thought you were my friend.
This one, I really love the interaction. When you look at it on the Zoom, it's a bit soft in some areas. When you look at the actual image I have and the shared images that were sent to me, it's extremely sharp. It's very sharp, very nice, well done in terms of sharpness. The only thing, again, let's take a look at the top of the image. I may have cropped a bit of the top of the image, just a little bit, not too much at the top, just to bring it in a bit tighter. His beret or his hat I call it beret, at the top, we need to deal with a few hot spots there that can be burnt in a bit. The shirt is really nice separated from the background in terms of its tone in the black and white scheme of things. So the tones on the shirt are very nice. They're not, it doesn't fit into the background, so it stands up quite nice at being gray and very shades of the tones of gray, while the background is black primarily. There are a few hot spots or spots on the background that we can clone out if we, really want to get there. But overall, again, very engaging. He's not smiling. He's a very serious character. Very engaging. Um, I would see a little in his look a little sense of mistrust, but that's me, building that story into it. And then finally, again, the only thing I would probably do is just crop a little bit off the top and deal with some of the hot spots in the beard and the beret or the head dressing that he's wearing. Again, very well done.
All right, so we have a nice black and white portrait having a strong introspective mood, focusing on the subject's facial expression, textures, and his gaze. I think his eyes are really nice. They're deep, soulful, inviting the viewers to connect. I'm missing the catch lights. I love catch lights in eyes. In nice, sharp eyes, those catch lights, they make such a difference. But his expression is there, it's relaxed, it's contemplative. It has a depth and authenticity to it. I think it's effective use of black and white. So other than the sharpness of the eye, the catch lights in the eyes, I think just increasing the tonal range in the beard, that a slight adjustment in contrast to emphasize like individual strands and that texture even further will take away some of those little blown areas. And that tonal range would add some more dimension and highlight the contrast between the light beard and the darker skin. So that is what I would definitely go with. But I think it's a really soulful portrait and it looks good in black and white, especially. Good job.
Thank you. I'm going to show my ignorance now. I remember reading somewhere, somebody said, when you photograph a person in colour, you're photographing their clothes. And when you photograph a person in monochrome, you're photographing their soul. And I think you've caught something here with this person. His character is wonderful, and I really feel engaged with the portrait. I think you've done a good job taking on board everything else that the other two judges said about the brightness in the beard and the hat. If you tone those down, I think you'd get yourself a much better image. I like the slight tilt in his head. It gets me looking at the picture, and the first thing I think is, what's he thinking about? What's going through his head? And the picture is bringing all sorts of different questions into my mind. So I'm really engaged in the picture. And I don't mind the fact that he's not smiling. I've got an auntie in Jamaica who told me that smiling is overrated. And I totally agree with her. I think that it's an attractive portrait. I may have tried to tone down the skin tones a little bit around his nose and just underneath his nose, bridge of his nose, just above the eyebrows. And, you can see the parts that are bright. I tried to tone those down a little bit, but you know what? It's a powerful portrait. It draws you in, and it's a portrait that you can come back to and look at time and time again and still see something and still come up with more questions and still, be wondering about what's going on in the gentleman's mind. Well done.
Gerard, could you contact me later on about this image? I want to discuss something with you.
Okay, sure, Hugh. Thank you.
Cool. This is one of my favorites also in the set. Again, let's go through from technical then to the emotional part of it. Technically, it's well exposed. I don't see very many areas where I would need to do a lot in terms of blown highlights or shadows that are muddy or anything like that type. There's a bit of work can be done, maybe a little bit of chest of the dog, around the corners of the image in terms of cleaning up a few little things, a few little spots, white spots here and there, a little bit of border control. Yeah, the crop is effective and nice because you've given space both to the lady and to my friendly dog here who's smiling. Her engagement is very well. She's looking straight at the camera again. She's engaged in the whole thing. And you've actually got the dog. He seems to be looking at, or he or she also seems to be engaged, just slightly off. He's looking slightly off, but definitely engaged also a bit with the whole situation. The relationship between the two persons, you can see it. The actual harmony in the way they're sitting is nice. I find that's very nice. It's very harmonic the way that both of them are sort of lined up in the frame and sitting in the frame. The bag on the left-hand side, mixed feelings about that. It's part of the environment. It's part of her, part of what she was probably doing at that time. So it's there. I would probably clean up, as I said, a bit around the edges, maybe bring down the exposure just a slight bit. I would want to emphasize the dog a bit more too, so you may need to just do a little bit of burning on the dog to just emphasize that aspect a bit more and a bit more contrast. Other than that, I think it's really well done in terms of the story we're getting, the harmony between her and the dog, the title, The Woman's Best Friend, which is really nice. Well done again. Nisha?
Yeah. Oh, Sharad, I think you have another good, really good black and white portrait here. You've captured a nice, quiet moment of companionship between a woman and her dog. The photo is rich in texture and expression, and there's a nice sense of companionship. I like her gaze directly to the camera. It's captivating and honest. I think it creates a strong emotional connection with us, the viewer. The expression is like a mixture of strength and wariness to me. That's what I am seeing. And I think it adds a nice narrative quality to the image. The presence of the dog adds warmth, that layer of companionship that I mentioned before, and highlights that kind of bond between them. And the dog's posture complements the woman's composed demeanor, and it gives it a sense of calm. Black and white I think is good because it strips away the distractions, emphasizes the texture. So all those things really work well for me. In terms of the dog's expression, that stood out to me because the dog's tongue is sticking out, which adds a kind of touch of playfulness and character. So I think bringing out that detail a little bit more, because it's kind of blending away into the body of the dog. I think bringing out that detail, maybe like subtly adjusting the brightness and contrast on the dog could probably highlight that. It's such an endearing detail, and I feel like it's a little bit lost there. And I would also add a subtle vignette around just to kind of, hug that companionship mood a little bit more. So that would be my comments. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you've said. I'd also like to, this is my favourite image, definitely the favourite portrait I've seen tonight. As far as my vignette goes, I would do it on the left and the right hand side, not at the top and the bottom. I think you're going to get too close to the lady by doing that. I've had a bit of, I'm in a privileged position here because I've had the opportunity to listen to my fellow judges, and like I said, I agree with them. But the jury's out with me as far as the bag's concerned, whether it should be in or it should be out. I'm not too concerned about that. I'm more concerned about the white lines above it. But I think if you did that vignette that I spoke about, that would naturally darken those down. You need to have a look at the dog again and see if you can do a little bit of dodging and burning on the dog. but look at these powerful stares, both from the lady and from the dog. And I think that dog's got his eye on you, and that dog's saying, you know, if you take another foot nearer, you're going to get some trouble. That dog is, like you said, woman's best friend. That dog's going to not let you mess with that woman by the look on his face. The other things that were said was tidying up around the edges. Some of the graffiti on the wall is really pertinent, like the freedom. I really love the freedom that you've got down there, and you've got love just above the dog. So that kind of works well for me. The other bits, you can see roadway, but you can't see much about what's going on in the other bits. I think it's an engaging portrait. I'm going to quote somebody else now. I'm going to quote William Shakespeare, who said that the eyes are the windows of the soul, and this is a portrait that's engaging and draws you in. So, you know, well done again. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Let me circle back one thing, Sharad. In terms of the bag, like Gary said, if it's in or out is because it's part of the whole scene, it's part of the environment that she's in, and she's brought that bag with her. If I'm keeping the bag, the one thing I may do is to just slightly darken the bag a little bit to give it a bit more two-dimensionality, right? I mean, in terms of certain parts of it, in terms of some of the darker areas of the bag, just burn them in a bit, and the left-hand side of the bag towards the edge of the frame and the center, just burn those in a little bit too. So it's there, but it's not overpowering from the rest of the image. And it's not overpowering. It's not really overpowering, but it doesn't distract that much from the rest of the image. Because I think the bag does have a place in the story. So if we do keep it in the story, we want to just tone it down a bit. It's there, but we just tone it down a bit so that it's there, but not too there. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, judges. And that was our final image. That is our final image for the night. So I'm just going to open the floor now to members who are online. Do you have any questions that we want to direct to our judges? Anything that was said earlier that you need further clarification on, or, you know, any question that you want to engage our judges on?
Bruce Taylor here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you, Bruce. And anyone else
Great.
who wants to engage, can you just use the raise hand feature and I'll acknowledge you. Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, I just want to thank the judges for putting in the time. I know it's quite a sacrifice for them, especially for Gary. But they've done such a great job over the 2 nights, and we really appreciate it. I've been shooting for a number of years, but you know, I've learned a lot tonight. You know, and I think a lot of persons here would have learned from the comments from the judges. So I want to thank them again. And they seem to have all gone to the same school.
The School of Hard Knocks Photography.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bruce. Ian's hand is up. Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, I was just saying to Hugh when he was looking at that image of the train, and about the twilight look, you know, it's just to let him know that's not a twilight location to shoot at. But it's a nice location. It has a lot of opportunities for photos. And I just want to say to you all that, you know, for all our friends, one of the good opportunities that this forms now is that when we travel to these various territories, you know, this is an excellent piece of networking for us to, because some of the scenes that you have shown over there, the wonderful places, you know, we'd like to shoot, because some of the places that we shoot, you know, we've shot them before, we shoot them again. But, you know, whenever we travel now, we actually have a, you know, a doorway to be able to go and shoot some other places.
Yeah. The train location, I mentioned that you said it's not a twilight, and I understand that quite quite clearly. But you need to go back, because I would spend, me personally, I would probably spend 2 days there, just in that location, just moving around those trains, just trying to find fine details in the other little areas and working as much as possible, because those have so much form, texture, that you'll get some beautiful images from it. So go back, get a chance, when you get a chance to go back with some friends, maybe carry like a small LED light that you can use to like shine on certain areas to, highlight certain things, and take your time. Take your time, enjoy it, breathe. Don't rush yourself. Don't rush yourself. Just take your time, absorb it, and don't start shooting right away. Just walk around the trains, absorb them, look for all of the little bolts and nuts and the different textures and things of that type. And then start on a certain area and just take your time and go through it. Just take your time. Don't rush it. You'll enjoy it.
Thanks, Hugh. Any other comments from any of our other photographers? Okay, if there are no other
I'm
comments.
trying to put my hand up, but
Victor. Go ahead, Victor.
yeah, well, just to thank the judges for the great insight and suggestions on all the photographs. And I'd just like to ask Gary, where can I see some of your work?
Sorry, what was that?
Where can I see some of your work, Gary?
I've got a website. It's www.garylangley, it's one word, .com. Sorry, .co.uk. So it's GARYLANGLEY.com.
Okay, thanks very much. Yeah, I'll take a look.
But then you can obviously then, Victor, judge me, which I look forward to.
Okay. I don't think I'm qualified.
Thank you, Victor. So in order to show our gratitude to our judges or respective. Oh, Bruce, yes, your hand was up. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bruce.
Yes, I'm so excited by this combination that we have developed over the couple of years, and I think that in 2025 we should try to even go further with the grouping, and probably have an exchange, organize some exchange visits, with the groups to the various islands. I'm sure there are people we could find to, give us probably some concessions on travel and accommodation. We probably look at maybe, hosting some of them when they visit our island. So it's something for the administrations to look at, but I think it will be very good. Right?
Thank you, Bruce. I think that's something that we have been looking at in terms of a photo trip within the Caribbean and trying to get persons from different countries to come on board. So yeah, that's something for the future as well. At this point in time, I am going to now hand over to the various presidents of the respective photo societies to move the vote of thanks for their respective judges. I'll start off with Bradley from the Barbados Photo Society. Are you there, Bradley? Okay, let's go to Trinidad. Chad, or is it Sarita?
It's me, because Chad is unable to be here tonight. Yeah, Bradley, you could go first, though. I'll follow you.
Oh, you're here, so you can go ahead.
No, please go first, because I don't really know what to do.
Go ahead, Bradley.
All right. Well, just want to take the time on behalf of the members of the Barbados Photographic Society to thank all three judges, Gary particularly, because I know with the time differences, It would have been a great challenge for us, but we are glad that you've sacrificed to be here. And welcome to the Caribbean Photographic Society family. And Lord, I say the Caribbean Photographic Society because basically that's what we've become. I want to especially thank Nisha for her insight during our segment yesterday. I know it was a long 4-hour pull, so thank you all for being for humoring us and being here. And thanks to Hugh, who once again consented, and Hugh has been extremely busy. He judged the NIFCA competition, which launched on the same day that we had this our Barbados segment, and he also did part of the curation and judging for our physical exhibition, which launched on the Friday at the Argentine Embassy. So once again, Hugh, a big thank you. You've come through in spades for us, and you did not say no when we asked, and we appreciate it greatly. And to everyone who stayed with us for the entire 2 days, I want to say thank you on behalf of the Barbados Photographic Society for being here with us.
Thank you, Bradley. Representing TNT, Sarita.
Yes, thank you very much to the judges. The feedback was great. It was beneficial. It was pertinent. And I think everybody who attended, and if anybody sees the recording after, they would benefit a lot from going through everybody's critique, not just their own, because it really was very in-depth. I mean, you would never guess that Gary was facing a 2-hour sleep last night after this whole session, and again tonight, you're looking very fresh. So thanks very much. I mean, I hope you get some sleep tonight. And Hugh, I mean, Hugh, your feedback it reminds me of our old photography teacher, because it's very technically sound, but also has emotion behind it. So it's actually really very helpful. And even like little tips, like looking at the filters when you convert to black and white to see how it would affect the tonality of an image. It's things that people know, but they don't necessarily think about when editing. So it was really, really helpful. And Nish, I mean, this is the 2nd year in a row, and you're doing it for rotis. So thank you so much. It was great. The feedback on my image, which I didn't even see until you pointed it out. Now I can't unsee it and I have to go and fix it. Is that container under the fishman? So thanks for that. But yeah, thanks very much. This is a great initiative, and it's the 3rd year. It's the 2nd year for us, but I look forward to many, many years to come, because I think it's important to keep a network of photographers across the region going.
Thank you, Sarita. And last but by no means least, Dwayne Smith, the president of the Jamaica Photographic Society. Go ahead, Dwayne.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So, Gary, on behalf of the Jamaica Photographic Society, I'd like to extend our gratitude to you for serving as a judge. Your critical eye, thoughtful feedback has left an impact on everyone here in attendance. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and time, especially considering the time zone difference, as our photography communities collaborate and support the creative journey of our members. To our other judges, Nisha and Hugh, we thank you as well. We deeply value your contribution this evening or over the past 2 days.
Thank you very much, Dwayne. And the certificate that you see on your screens, all of our judges have these certificates, and the respective societies will get them to their judges. It's only a small token. You can realize that our judges have spent over 6 hours with us, combined over both evenings, and that's quite a time investment. but you can see their passion for photography and the passion to help other photographers to improve their skills. So we are eternally grateful for the time and the expertise that you have shared with us. I want to say a very special thanks to the executive of the various photo societies who, again, have come together to organize this Caribbean Photo Walk. And, all the societies have worked seamlessly together to create a wonderful program. And it is my hope that this will continue to grow from strength to strength each year, and that we will get other members across or the Caribbean to get engaged in this program. So I'm really looking forward to Caribbean Photo Walk 2025. I will leave the final words to Belinda. Belinda, do you have any final words? By the way, Belinda is president-elect of the Jamaica Photo Society, so congratulations to her. Belinda, any final words?
No, just a great big thank you to everybody for the effort and time. And as I said earlier in the welcome, it's been a challenging year for a lot of us between personal issues and then natural disasters such as a hurricane and so forth that has swept our Caribbean islands. So I just want to thank everybody for putting in the time and the effort. And yes, it was 6 hours today and tomorrow. Yesterday and today. But for the judges, it was longer than that because they had to actually look at the images and go through the images before the actual review session. So I just want to again thank Gary, Hugh, and Nisha for their time, their expertise, and for taking the time out of their busy schedule to get this done. Again, just thank you very much. I appreciate it. And as Sharad said, hope we can go from strength to strength. Hopefully next year we can get some more Caribbean islands involved. Pray that we can do that so we can even expand further. Okay, thank you, everybody.
And I would say as well that, if members have any ideas for the photo walk next year, how we can improve this product, then, just feedback to your respective societies, and that will, get to all of us, and we will, try and make this thing better for next year. Well, if there is nothing else, I just want to wish everyone a good night and have a very productive week this week. Okay? Take care, everyone.
Take care. Have a great night.
Yeah, have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Good night, everyone.
Have a
Good
good
night.
night.
Take care.
Night all.